Welcome to Between Two Ellens. We are honored today to be joined by State Senator Nikki Nice, who also was former Councilwoman Nikki Nice, today to kind of just talk about her work in the community and Black History Month. So first, tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you kind of got involved in politics.
Well, first let me say this is exciting to sit between two Ellens. So thank you for the
I'm
opportunity.
Ellen Hefner, House District 87.
Yes, Ellen Pogmiller, HD 88.
There you go. And I am Senate District 48.
There you go.
So I think I sit between both of these districts anyway, so
Yeah.
it's even more fun. But for myself, going to politics was never really my plan. I was very content where I was. So grew up doing radio and television as far as my degree, but public service was something that I saw my mom do. So I would go with her when she voted. When I was young, she would take me to Northeast High School because that was her polling place. We lived not too far from there. So I always understood the importance and impact of voting and the shoulders that I stood upon, not only as a Black person, but as a woman. So being able to really understand, when I became 18, the first thing that I did when I was on the campus of UCO, that's where I started going to school, Stampede Week, I registered to vote. So I've been a voter since I turned 18. So I'm very talkative about those points for our young people. And I hope that our schools still do that. I know I'm old now, so I don't know older. I'm not old. Older, so I'm not sure if they still do that in the ways that we did with Stampede Week. But also, they were getting people registered for credit cards, getting us into debt real quick.
Oh, that's
right. So doing that and just becoming more involved and engaged with like BSA and all the things that we have, which is Black Student Association, and just being involved civically. When I started doing radio, we would talk to our elected officials, local, state, and our federal leaders and delegation. And I just wanted to be more engaged, but always be on the back end, not up front. I always wanted to just be helpful to figure out how to help. And my mom, I don't think she ever helped in any campaigns, but she knew people that ran. So I don't recall her, being that active, but I know she was a voter, right? So she was engaged that way. So really, it was just more of that kind of stuff. In 2016, I was elected to be a delegate to the DNC, and I was a part of the platform committee for the Bernie Sanders campaign. And from there, I was able to go to Orlando, Florida, and help set, at that time, the most progressive DNC platform that we would ever see. I know now it's progressed even more, but just being in that room with people like Cornel West and I was with Chuck Hoskins Sr. because he was the delegate for Hillary Clinton. So that was my formal relationship and friendship with meeting him and knowing who he was. And I thought it was funny because I was tweeting at that time. It was Twitter. Tweeting about sitting next to him. And I thought I was tweeting him, but I was tweeting his son. And his son was like, "That's my dad, but I'm so glad he's there." So I thought that was pretty funny. But there, just understanding and engaging, and even Nina Turner from Ohio, I'm sure y'all know who she is, but she was definitely a force and a powerhouse then, and just meeting people. So that helped. And then when I went to Philadelphia, seeing everyone, being able to see in person John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis. At that time, they had this is my Jesse Jackson story. At that time, in 2016, in Philadelphia, they had all-gender restrooms at the convention center.
Wow.
So as I was going in the restroom, Jesse Jackson was coming out of the stall. He was coming out of the stall. But my eyes were like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, that is Jesse Jackson going to the bathroom. And then afterwards,
it's not how you imagined meeting him
at all. But just the fact that we shared a restroom together, I feel like that's my forever story.
Yeah,
I love it.
And I can't remember at that time which. Now they had a few national places, but they did a publication about me right outside the restroom about experiencing gender restrooms, so the all gender restrooms. So that I was able to tell that story too. So just being, engaged and that one of the beautiful things about that too was I was still working at the radio station. So I would call in every morning and tell people what was happening live from Philadelphia as if, they were there. And, my eyes were just so open to all of the people and the things that happen, to see Michelle Obama, to even see Hillary Clinton accept her nomination. Those were great experiences. So those were things that I, again, knew I wanted to continue to do, and also involved with the county Democrats. So my mom, we would go together and just, we became precinct officers. I think she pushed me to do it. I can't remember, but one of us did it. But being, again, involved that way. So I knew a lot of people from doing that. And then it came to a time where, unfortunately, our council member at the time had to immediately resign from his seat. And we were all like, well, who's going to run? Because I was one of those people calling people like, who are we going to get to run for this seat? And they were like, so a few people were like, why don't you do it? I said, I don't want to do that. No, I'd rather stay in the background. And, of course, as women, as you know, you have to be asked 7 times at least to run for office. I think it was more for me, and I finally said yes and did that. And it was about 7 other people that ran.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was 8 of us.
Oh, that is insane.
8 of us on the ballot. And when it came to the runoff, I was the top vote getter. And then we had another person that wasn't necessarily from the community and didn't reflect initially, the immediate area of the community. So I think a lot of us in the community in our ward were a little nervous about what could take place. So I ended up beating him, though, in November of 2018 by 72% of the vote.
Yes.
And at that time, that was the highest municipal race our city had ever seen. I think now, just because of this mayoral race, it may be different. The numbers may be different, but for a council member, that's still the highest race that our city has ever seen. So that's how I got here.
Yeah.
So I remember bumping into you, I think it was last session. It was like the first, right when committee started. And I said, how's it going? And she goes, you said, this is hard. It's a lot easier on city council. So explain a little bit about that. And then maybe first tell us why you ran for the state office.
Okay. Well, I knew being in local government, there are a lot of preemptions. There are a lot of barriers that are held back because of state legislation and state statute and in the Constitution. So for me, it was working to figure out how to serve my community in a better way because of the things that I had experienced on a local level. So for me, it was just do better work. That's why I initially said yes. The story behind that is Senator Young called and he was like, Nikki, I heard you may be thinking about this, running for Senate. He said, I'm out. That's basically how he said it. He said, I'm out. And I was like, no, not yet. I don't know. I said, I don't know. I said, Pastor, let me pray about it now because I'm not sure. Because at that time, I was still on the cusp of deciding if I was going to run for my seat again for re-election. If I wanted to serve a couple more years to see some projects through, or if I just wanted to start brand new and fresh with a brand new seat. So I was weighing my own things to figure out if this was something that I wanted to do. And finally I said, okay, I'll do it. And he was like, if you do it, I'll fully support you. And he did. He fully supported me, and I'm so grateful for his support. But that's how I got here. And the difference is, one, we have 9.
Right.
City council is 9. So you have 9 voting members. And a lot of people don't realize the mayor, because we are called a weak mayor system, that the mayor is just 1 vote, just like the council members in Oklahoma City. So he doesn't have more power than us when it comes to voting. We all have the same power when it comes to voting. And I wish more people understood that, because I think a lot of people think, oh, he makes the decisions. No, the council makes the decisions. The city manager implements the decisions, but the council makes those decisions. So I only had to count to 5.
That's a big difference.
Here in the Senate, I have to count to 25. And it's a lot of different people. Of course, it was easier to manage 5 or 6 to 9 different personalities. Here you have rural America, you have urban America, and I'm learning now, I'm starting to actually understand that urban-rural divide. And it's very unfortunate that we have that. But I'm learning that in clearly the ways that I'm a smaller minority. While we are 48 as far as the Senate, 8 Democrats, I only see one reflection of myself, which also I saw on the local level, being the only Black woman to serve our city. But I have a great mentor in Senator Goodwin that I get to see, and her helping me with legislation. And that's the other thing that's different. Resolutions and ordinances look totally different than state statutes and law. And the words are different. Now, the shall and may are the same.
You get
There
that
we
part.
go. We found the same.
That's the
Yeah, we found
only
the same.
thing that I know for sure. Oh, okay, this, and this. But legislation and just the wording and the ways that it's worded are totally different.
This is going to make me, I'm going to learn a little bit about local politics. Okay. I'm going to forgive myself that I don't know this, but like, you know, in the state, we have direct timelines, right? So like I have to file our bills by X number. Do you all at the city council have timelines at all, or can you kind of work a process through and then bring it up when you think you have an opportunity?
It's about a little bit of both.
Okay.
One, if you're trying to work things through in the budget season, through the budget process, you do have to have that done before we go to the vote. We have to have the vote, I believe, by the end of May, but beginning of June. Because you have 30 days, I believe, by the statute to start that new
fiscal year.
Yeah. So I do believe that is set in stone there. However, when it comes to other resolutions and ordinances, you can just bring those forward. But you do have to make sure you have time for those things to be brought before the community, for people to have their public hearing. That's the difference.
That is a huge difference.
We have a public hearing. Even with our budget, we have a public hearing. It's not a transparent public hearing, but we have a public hearing. And that's what, a lot of community is working on right now to make sure our budget in the city, municipalities, is a open public hearing. So that's probably the difference as far as state and local. We do allow for public hearing and for the public to have notice of what is about to take place. So we do have to go through that process before we actually vote. So, but no necessarily a timeline, other than also when we have elections and or we are looking to put something on the ballot, like MAPS 4, general obligation bond, or something similar to that nature.
Yeah.
Gosh, that public hearing is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Watching sometimes on the news public hearing, I could understand why sometimes people don't want it, because it can get a little bit contentious. Have you felt a lot of that, or you have?
Oh, absolutely. Going through COVID, that was real tough. We had a budget season and we were doing online meetings. And there was one session that was it was during our budget time, where I turned on my laptop that I had, my little iPad, and all you saw in the comments was the N-word. So it's those kind of things that have taken place. There was one particular meeting we had, which I thought was interesting, that I had something on the agenda and I was asking some questions of our city staff, and the office that I was talking to, they didn't have their phone on mute. And I was working to fight for my constituents to defer something because they were deeming a property abandoned and dilapidated, and I didn't want that to happen at that time. So that person that worked there said, "Well, effing defer it then," screamed into the meeting.
Oh, wow.
And he said the word. It was not muted. And I said, you know what? Thank you for that advice. I will go ahead and defer that. Thank you. So I've had a lot of different things that have gone unchecked as an elected official that I don't think would happen to other people, unfortunately. So those things have happened. Even when we were in person to remask to extend the mask mandate, it got very contentious. It got very contentious. With some people calling us out, one person calling it a Jim Crow law. to mask people.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it came for us to reinstate our Human Rights Commission,
Mm-hmm.
that was also contentious, which was really disturbing for me to see. And that ended in a 5-4 vote.
Mm.
Well, I want you to talk about a win then.
Yeah.
I don't want to glaze over because we'll talk about Black History Month, Black History Year. But I think that saying something, gosh, it's still there. But a win would be a real good one. I'm sure there's something that you want to pull from your city days on the council.
Well, I would say even though the 5-4 vote was the way it was still a win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was still a win. And that was because the win was because there were 3 Black women leading the charge for our Human Rights Task Force. Myself, Dr. Andrea Benjamin, and Miss Mariana Adams. You know, we hadn't had a task force led by Black women for our city. So that was a win.
That is a win.
We were seen.
Yeah.
And we ensured that this was done.
Mm-hmm.
Very grateful. You know, it was a fight. And I had to go to, to our community, to our pastors to say, hey, I need y'all to talk to the mayor, talk to the other council members because we need help.
Mm-hmm.
We need help with this to make sure everybody in Oklahoma City is represented in the ways that they need to be.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a win. Another win I had was us being able to safely secure and save the Brockway Center in Oklahoma City, which was the home to the Oklahoma Federation of Colored Women's Clubs. Being able to save that space, it was literally at the point where they were taking the metal fixture out of the building because they were about to tear it down. And up until that last day, we kept fighting, and it took community to do that. And I'm very grateful for the people who understood the importance of that place. Being able to also look at how we were able to secure funding for the Jewel Theater that happened with Open Design Collective in Black Space, Oklahoma. Having those conversations of saving that, and also our Foster Center, Henrietta B. Foster Center. So placemaking for Black names, Black culture, Black space, and our grocery store. The other thing, policy-wise, being able to implement for the zip code of 73111 a healthy neighborhood overlay district, which meant only in 73111, which is not far from the Capitol, by the way, that you could not open a small box store, which is a Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, or General Dollar, unless you brought in 500 feet of fresh fruit, vegetables, and meat. And we knew at that time, one of those small box stores had a neighborhood market type store, but because they didn't feel they had to bring that to the community, they wouldn't. And I said, oh, okay, I got something for you. Let's get this done. So we were successful. We were successful in doing that. So I'm grateful for that. Lessons learned during that same time. We lost the grocery store, but we were able to, with some city help, ensure that we had a new grocery store, which is also not far, about a mile from here, built from the ground up in 26 years. We hadn't done that in 26 years for our community. So I'm very grateful for those things.
When just a little bit on public comment, because I think sometimes what I think is it is a heavier lift for us to tell the story and share different perspectives because, we come from a certain perspective, but the community we serve is broader than that. And sometimes my voice may not be the right voice to share that story, but I want to make sure that I'm bringing those voices to the table. And so that's, do you miss public comment being at the state level? Do you think that would make an impact here?
Oh, I know it would make an impact. The way we have our committee meetings, I think the decisions and votes would be different if people had knowledge and actually listen to their constituents instead of acting like they're reading an email.
Right.
We get a flood of emails, as you know, because we can't have those public comments. So sometimes they look redundant, and sometimes, there's one or two that catch you where you're like, oh, okay, this means something here.
Right.
So, but I do believe we're here to be a voice, not to be the voice.
Yes, that's
right.
Yeah. So without people showing up, they're not able to tell their story, and we don't do that story justice because it's theirs.
Correct.
We don't do that story justice.
Yeah.
So I was talking last week. We had, we had our Black History Month program for the Oklahoma Legislative Black Caucus. But I bring that up because one of my church members came up to me Sunday and she said, "Nikki, I never thought I would have an opportunity to go to the Capitol. Nice. Now I will be back." Mm-hmm. And I said, "This is your tax dollars pay for that. So you show up anytime you want to, mm-hmm. But because we don't have a public comment or a public hearing, people feel they are separated mm-hmm. from the policy."
Yep.
And that makes a difference. And I'm envious of other states that allow for that. I think we think it takes up too much time, but it's necessary time. We take up time anyway.
Yep.
That's what we're here to do. We're here to sit and listen and be thoughtful about the policy that we're making.
Yep. I love it. Great comments. It's public comment. We used to have it though.
What they would say is we still have it. For the House. I assume the Senate's the same way, but it's at the call of the chair. But the standard practice is that they don't allow it, and so we have to change that standard practice to be like, it's the intent of the chair to allow public comment in what capacity. Mm-hmm. That's the shift I want to make.
Well, and also it thinks about
my dream
I was going to say
I'm
behind it. Yeah. I'm behind it too.
Yeah, I know.
It also, as you know, who's in charge right now? A lot of people don't want to hear that stuff because they know they don't have to. And I would hope, and I found it interesting how even some of our committee chairs won't entertain conversations from their committee members mm-hmm.
Or do interim studies because that's just something they don't want to do.
Right.
I like, though, there ain't no getting if there ain't no asking. And if you ask and frame it, I believe that we can still make that change. I don't think anything should be an on and off switch.
Yeah.
But I think that we keep talking about how important it is. I think the messenger is always good too, Mm-hmm. Sometimes that adversarial piece gets people on their heels, but I think that there's a way to do it, and I think that we just keep staying the course and talking about how important it is.
Yeah.
Sigh. But I do know that you had a
that was a long sigh.
Yeah, I know.
I say that. Because last week we had on our minority leaders, and it was such a great conversation, but we throw in how hard it is, but I don't want to use hard. I think that I think it should be it should be difficult to pass good legislation. We know a lot of the unintended consequences with poor legislation. Mm-hmm. So I think it should go through a lot of questions in committees, but I think the hard, it just wears on you with all the differences that you have to vote on from, and this may be easier for you because of city council, but you have energy to vote on, you have tax incentives, and then you have disability or whatever. How do you feel your first session getting into that groove? How was that for you with all the differences that were thrown at you in a very short amount of time?
I'm still trying to catch up.
Yes.
That mm-hmm. first year I still don't remember all that happened.
Same.
You feel the same way?
I have to Google, did we?
Did I vote on that?
Yeah.
Some people are like, you remember last year we did that? I said, no. Honestly, I hate to be like that, but no, I don't remember what we did.
I usually say, give me a minute. Let my brain relax into that space because it's
a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I went from a narrow scope where I literally only city issues. We had 20 something departments, that was my scope of work, to now, then also I didn't have to say education mm-hmm. because while yes, it impacted the neighborhoods, I was not a person who legislated education mm-hmm. on the local level.
Yeah.
Here, I'm having to learn all of the things in a more broader detail, more broader scale. And I also have to allow my community to understand that I'm learning too.
Yes.
And I know people expect if you run, you already baked and you ready to go. You know what it is. When it's like, hold up.
Yeah.
Wait, if you ever get here, you'll understand. It is a work in progress every single year of understanding what your responsibilities are, what your tasks are, and the things that you need to learn. So I'm grateful. Last year, I was able to co-sponsor a bill with Representative Arturo Alonso mm-hmm. Sandoval, got it to the finish line, and unfortunately, when it hit the governor's desk, he vetoed it. So, I mean, I call it a victory. That even with the veto, it was a victory.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep working with that legislation. I have his permission to do that, so I'm going to keep working on that as well. But I saw the process. Yeah. I experienced the process, and I'm grateful for that. So now it made me stronger in understanding some of the things that I need to do for this session.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, yeah, it's a lot. We're in week 4 right now, and so we're getting ready to. In a couple of weeks, we'll get to hear the Senate bills, and can't wait. But it's rocket fuel for sure. That we're all just going really quick. But I'm really happy that you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
The way it's always nice to learn, especially with all the experience you have with City, to learn, especially on how that connects to what we do here, because you get sort of in that silo.
You do, and I found it frustrating just recently that I was talking to another senator about some local issues, because I'm asking him if he'll hear my bill in committee, and because he doesn't understand what I'm saying from the local aspect, he's like, I don't think that's something that the state should be doing, and I'm very frustrated because I'm trying to understand how to put this in rule form for you to understand this is also a local issue.
Yes.
That's a learning curve.
It is definitely a learning curve, so I'm working on it. But you can
learn it.
Yeah,
you can learn it. Yeah. It's one that's not out there that you can learn.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, Black History, do you have anything to just add about that before we get to a question that we want you to ask?
Sure. I want to always mention one person that I've learned about, or a few people, when it comes to our state legislature, is Green Curran. He doesn't get enough flowers. In 1890, he became our first, during Oklahoma Territory, became our first Black legislator from Kingfisher County.
Or is that
before statehood? Before statehood.
We had Stu on, and he was speaking about him.
Okay, so
Green Curran?
No, he didn't. So I didn't know this story.
He spoke about A.C. Hamlin.
Yes.
Yeah, well, Green Curran made way for A.C. Hamlin. Green Curran stepped into his seat in 1890. I believe August of 1890, he took his space, and the next day, he experienced his friend, African American, who was clubbed by some Caucasian folks, and he brought legislation forward. Immediately after that, one of the first civil rights legislations, and it fell by one vote. One vote for him to have had that pass.
Wow.
So, in my opinion, that speaks to my ancestors and the shoulders that I sit upon, of the ways that they were able to bring conscious awareness to what is happening to the Black people in Oklahoma Territory in 1890. So I'm grateful that is written down in history for us to know that there was someone here who fought for us before statehood. And my predecessor is E. Melvin Porter. Senator E. Melvin Porter was the first African American elected to the Senate in 1964, and I sit in his seat. Nice. And I love telling this story too, because on the local level, I was the second Black woman to ever serve our city since 1890. Talking about that territory.
Wow.
Time. But here in my Senate seat, there have been at least 3 or 4 other Black women that have served in the Senate. So it's just weird how we've had, but I'm grateful of the progressive ways women have been able to serve on that state level.
Yes.
But we still have some work to do on the local level. So Black History Month, it means Black excellence as we celebrate 100 years, but it also, which is the theme for commemorations, but understanding and realizing the impacts of Black Oklahomans is why I'm here. If it had not been for my mom pouring into me to say, explore your Blackness. I want you to understand also how you can be a leader, what leadership looks like. I wouldn't be able to stand in this space and sit in this space today. So I'm very grateful.
I'm happy you brought that up about moms. That having a mom that understood my strength and weaknesses too, and to encourage. I think there's a big piece of our women, Oklahoma women, that don't have a good mentor. And so I'm happy to hear that, because I do count on all the experiences that she's given to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Not just money or anything like that, but
we appreciate that money.
You know what I mean? I know. I'm not saying money is good, but it's always nice to know where those roots come from too.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Oh, goodness.
Well, my question for y'all as we talk about Black History Month. Give me one of your heroes, sheroes, or stories that you think of, or invention that you learned about. What? Tell me something. I got to test your Black history knowledge.
Well, okay. So I was going to make mine more personal. Okay. So I, grew up in Paris, Texas, which, my family worked, and so we had, our caretaker, Dolores Dixon, who's passed away, but she had 12 kids, and then my brother and I were considered 13 and 14 for her. And she was born, did not have a birth certificate back in a time where she never got her driver's license and she never voted. And her first election to vote was Obama. And she just played such a critical role with our family, but also her family was part of our family. And now her daughter-in-law is the first Black superintendent of my high school, or my hometown school district. And
awesome.
It's awesome. And so it has always been, but I also learned as a young child, we lived in a town of 25,000 and we had 3 separate school districts. And it wasn't until later that I realized it was because of race. We went to the school that was integrated, and the other 2 schools, which were 2 miles from my school, were not, were born out of integration. And so, anyway, that is like a history that's always stayed with me and has like really shaped who I am, to ensure that like that's not how schools should be. That's not how our communities should be, and how lines are drawn. And we knew it in the way where she lived and in where we lived. It was just very stark. And so she's passed away, but she and her family have really set in our community of like what we should be working towards, and working towards that helps everybody. And now, it can hopefully lead to better outcomes for everybody. So anyway.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
That's a good story. Coming from Chicago and then coming here when I was in 5th grade, wow, the difference. Mm-hmm. Big culture difference as well. It's not only with how things look or who you sit next to in school, but also food, all different kinds of things that are different that, one very diverse, had to look for it a little bit harder, and I didn't get to do that until I got a driver's license. But remembering Deep Deuce and my friends hanging out down there was just, I was like, I knew I'm having fun here. But it wasn't something but you could definitely tell there was a difference of a line. But the person that, recently I've got to become, she says she loves me, and that's really good, because on my worst days up here, Miss Marilyn Looper Hildreth has been, like, just getting to know her a little bit more. She came on our podcast, but even before that, she'd go, how are you doing up there? Everyone's pulling her all over the place. But when I say, oh, I'm so tired, she goes, you can't be. I'm like, look who I'm talking to, So it gets me snapped back into that idea of even the advocacy that I've done with disability. Yeah. It's all about, and we used to always, it's human rights. Absolutely. It's civil rights, but so easily forgotten. And understanding, especially with all the work that I've done in disability, the most disenfranchised is disability Black women. Mm-hmm. And it's always one of those things. But in any training or anything that I've done with all of disability, you know that the road's a little bit harder. How do you make those friends? How do you educate? So being an advocate up here, I just take all the conversations I have in knowing that they don't know what I know. Mm. How do I not teach, but just by conversations, I think it's the hardest part about how do I respond and answer so that I can get them to have a little more understanding. And so anyway, Marilyn, with all the stories that I've heard from her personally, but that encouragement, that she gives me, I feel kind of silly. I'm tired. And she goes, well, I'm tired too.
I know. There is a song, I'm tired, but you can't finish. Can't stop now. You got to keep going. So I understand that. And I'll close with this, to your point about the schools and the school system. I just want to leave you with one more name, since we're in the lens of Black history. Dr. A.L. Dow. Mm-hmm. Dr. A.L. Dow, he was the first African-American appointed. He was actually, elected to Ward 7, the same seat that I sat in. Previous to him, it was Dr. Charles Atkins. He was appointed, but Dr. Dow was elected. I bring his name up because he fought Oklahoma City Public Schools for his son. His son went to Douglas High School and wanted to take a technology class at Northeast High School, which is where I graduated from. In the early 1960s, he was denied. So he took the school to court. He took Oklahoma City Public Schools to court and won. And that's how we ended up integrating Oklahoma City Public School system. And I didn't learn that story till after I graduated high school.
Wow.
After I graduated high school. But, you know, to know again that these were the people that were fighting in the fight. And even I know E. Melvin Porter as an attorney fighting civil rights cases and fighting in the fight, and Clara Looper and all the 13 children, everybody working together in the fight. So I'm grateful for the fighters, because had they not fought, I would not be able to sit.
Yes, and just, you know, Marilyn said I'm going to tell you something, it's not good, you know, you need to take care of yourself, but I'm not going to tell you to ever stop. And get the support that you need. And so I appreciate that from all levels. You know, disability fights hard, but we just keep going. We keep going. And we keep going. Gosh, I'm so happy to have a conversation.
Thank you, Senator Nice.
Thank y'all for the work you do
Come back.
too.
Thank you guys.